Welcome back to 20 Minutes of Science so that you don't need a PhD. Today we are pleased to hear from Dr. Mary Balliett, a professor emeritus at Northeast College of Health Sciences. Dr. Mary, thank you so much for joining us. And I'd really like to start off with a fun hypothetical question. And I say hypothetical, but honestly, maybe this is not so hypothetical for you. Maybe you've lived through this many times. But the situation is you're in a context where you don't have a lot of time to talk. You're in an elevator or at a bus stop making small talk with someone, and they make that classic comment about, I'm headed to the gym because it's all about how you're training. What you're eating doesn't matter. And you have a wealth of knowledge on this subject, but you have like 15 seconds to respond to them and basically convey why they need to care about nutrition. What is it that you would say?
I would say, well, if you don't eat the right food, do you know that your body just becomes a cannibal and it's going to eat that muscle that you're actually trying to make be better? That is your number one source to keep your blood sugar up in between meals is muscle tissue. And if you don't have enough protein, then your body just thinks, hey, this is now steak.
You got me with that one. As a long-time gym rat, if I'm the person at that bus stop, I'm like, okay, I'm pulling out the notebook and I'm taking notes. I'm ready to hang on every word. So then bridging from there, maybe you're in the same situation and that person's like, okay, well, fine. Like, I'm going to care about this. Maybe it's a listener thinking this right now. And again, you years of experience here working with patients and conducting research of your own. But where would you start? Before getting into the nitty gritty, what are some of the big rocks, as we might say, that the everyday person can change right now to see
So
results and
I
how they
want
feel and
everybody
how they perform?
Yeah, so I want to think of when we're thinking about nutrition, I want you to think of like one of the big meals that we have in our lives, like Thanksgiving dinner, right? Think about Thanksgiving dinner. It doesn't just show up on the table. You got to like think about it and prep for it. But what if you made the most beautiful meal ever, but you hadn't taken the garbage out for 7-1? How
I
great is
love that.
that meal going to be? So the number one rule of nutrition is get the garbage out. Get the garbage out. That's number one. It doesn't matter what you put in because you can't get out the garbage. You don't want to put garbage in. You need to treat your body like it's a beloved dog. And you would not feed your dog garbage. You just wouldn't do it. Maybe a pig could eat it, but your dog would not. We are much more like a dog. And so you have to think about that. So you have to say to yourself, what is the number one garbage that we put in our food today? Unfortunately, that's called Roundup. So when Roundup went in, because it's an amazing weed killer, and athletes know the importance of amino acids. They know
Of
everything. They're
course.
all about their collagen peptides. Well, what's
Absolutely.
interesting is every third amino acid in collagen is a glycine molecule. And in Roundup is a modified glycine molecule. So let's say that this is my glycine here on my glass, right? And I'm going to put every third thing is going to be this mug, right? But now I put a modification on this. So it's still in my protein, but my body is like, what the heck is this? Take it off, take it off. And the only thing that can take that off are white blood cells. And so now we're mounting an immune response. Now my muscles are sore. Now my ligaments are bad. Now my hair, skin, and nails don't look right. Because now in all these places that collagen, which is critically necessary, it's the foundation of my bone, of my muscle, of my ligaments, of my hair, my nails. This is a foundational molecule. Why all of a sudden collagen peptides? Well, because like in biochem, there's a thing called competitive inhibition. It's like going to a meet, right, where there's two competitors. If you have one in there, so you're like, well, I'm going to put a lot more of the good stuff in. I'll put in collagen peptides, which don't have Roundup in them, versus that I'm going to eat food that has Roundup in it. Well, what food has Roundup? One has to ask. 99% of the corn, wheat, soy, and oats in this country have Roundup in them. If you're not eating organic
Wow.
corn, wheat, soy, and oats, you are putting Roundup in your body, and then now you're making a modified collagen molecule. Because if I take collagen peptides, I got to break them down in my digestion, remake them in my liver and my cells. I'm not going from my mouth to my skin or my hair. It's not happening. I've got to break it down and make it. So that's what's interesting. So now I have all these modified glycines coming in on collagen, and now maybe I'm going to have to mitigate that. But the thing is, why not just take that out? Eat enough protein. Protein has plenty of glycine in it. Not necessary to do that. But I think that's why the literature is good, not because that's what's working, but because it's kind of competing with the garbage in a bizarre, total way. But the other thing that needs a lot of glycines is your thyroid. And now people are tired and they can't deal with stress and they can't burn their fat because that's what makes your motors, is your thyroid. And then we have Hashimoto's way on the rise. All these autoimmune diseases are way up. People having skin autoimmune issues. I really believe it's the Roundup. So if I had to make one and only one change, I would get the Roundup out. Then the second thing I would do is I'd be like, okay, you need to focus on macronutrients. You got to eat enough protein. Look at your hand. Make sure you have meat the size of the palm of your hand and the thickness 3 times a day. So it's different for you than it is for me, but that's an easy way to do it. And you got to do it multiple times a day, 3 times, 4 times a day, depending on our size, right? How much we're using our activity. And the other thing we want to get out anything that has too much sugar or is a carbohydrate that when you take total carbs and you divide it by fiber, if that number is more than 10, then you're actually just putting sugar. So they're like, oh, I don't eat sugar, but I have pasta. And the pasta has 40 grams of carbs and 1 gram of fiber. Well, 40 divided by 1, that's 40. That means it's 40 grams of sugar. That's way more than 10. And you're like,
I may be in the guilty party, but from this answer, I know how to change, and now I have the motivation to do so. With this, though, I'm curious because this is kind of a voice in my head as, of course, a student, but also, moreover, I'm anticipating people in the audience probably thinking the same. You're saying go organic, and seriously, you've sold this well. Like I understand the importance and the way that you've conveyed it. But the pushback, of course, from people is, oh, that's expensive. I don't have the budget to do that right
totally
now.
get that. So let's talk about that right now. So let's say we're eating bread. There is stores like Aldi's or even Walmart that sells less expensive organic bread. So a loaf of that
Really?
might be $6.50 at a high-end store like Wegmans, but it's $3.50 Aldi's. So I am really care about that. And so we want to get less expensive. It doesn't matter how much it costs. It's only 4 things. I'm not saying everything organic. I'm saying 4 things: wheat, corn, soy, oats. That's what I'm saying. Those are the 4 things. And the market will drive that, right? If people are like, I demand that, what are they going to do? Are they going to make more organic stuff? No, they're going to get the Roundup out of the wheat because people are like, I don't want to spend that much money. And Roundup didn't used to be. Roundup didn't come on the market all the way until like the 80s. So what did we do before that? Wasn't that? So I think it's interesting why we're seeing so many food allergies, so many allergens, so many autoimmune diseases. So I think it's really from that. That's the number one thing I think that's ruined things for us. That's what I would say. I think I said one other thing. I would say don't take really high dose B vitamins. B vitamins are like a team. The Yankees do not go out with 35 people on the field. Team first baseman. It just doesn't go that way. That game would be ruined, okay? I cannot play hockey with 16 goalies. It doesn't work out and no forwards. So it doesn't make any sense to me that you're going to take B vitamins not as a team. They are a team. So you want them all about 100% of the RDA in the right form. So let's not take a B vitamin that's not good for you.
I love the sports analogy. Seriously, I'm going to have to make a note as we speak for our editing team to clip that part because, this is what makes sense to people, right? And with this, it leads to my next question because I'm thinking about, the people I work with, which are predominantly middle school and high school athletes. And we work a little bit on the nutrition side, predominantly trying to get them to pay attention to macronutrients, as you mentioned, and important micronutrients that they can incorporate into their diets. But the sticking point is inevitably they are not the ones making the decisions for
Correct.
their households. So I'm wondering, if you were tasked with this, let's say you came in to talk to the group of athletes I work with, or even you go into a school, how exactly do you approach this in terms of trying to help this younger population if you might not have such immediate access to the parents themselves?
Yeah, I think I would say that, you guys probably have parents that are in their 40s and 50s. Do you know that 50% of women over 50 and 30% of men over 50 don't get enough protein? Well, you guys are in a similar group, all right? So what's going to be good for you is actually going to be good for your parents as well. Because, they could really benefit. Like, this is where you can be the expert. You can be like, I learned this, and we could try it. And then you could show them that it's not that hard. it is difficult to be the teenager, and I think the big problem today is that their parents are likely both working. And so the parents want something really easy that they can do at home. And that is a genuine challenge because I talk to moms who have 2 kids. Now let's just think about that. If I'm a mom and I have 2 kids and I'm married, now that means I've got 4 people that I have to provide 3 meals a day for. Okay, that's 12 meals. Now I got to do that 7 times in a week. This is why it doesn't work. Because in the old days, way back when, you would have had somebody else do that for you. You either had help that came in and helped you, or you had a grandparent that lived at home who cooked if you were out. And so now we're expecting people to have these really high-powered jobs and then create 3 quality meals a day. That's impossible. It's impossible for me to do it, and I meal prep. And so I really encourage families to make a menu as a family on a Friday and then shop to the menu. It saves more money. And then cook as a family and make all these meals that are stacked in the refrigerator. Because now what happens is that decreases what's known as decision fatigue. So one of the big problems of people eating healthy is they wait till they're starving and then they have decision fatigue. I don't know, Chinese.
Guilty again.
Right? And so if instead I've meal prepped and now I have all this in the refrigerator, now I just take it out, I throw it in the microwave, and in 2 minutes I've eaten healthy, and now I'm satisfied because I've met all my needs. The whole team has showed up together.
So make the decisions ahead of time.
That is the big thing. So for me, I took a class about importance of family meetings, and I'm like, what should we do for family meetings? Because you don't want it to be like, oh, mom, blah, blah, right? Or you did this wrong. Like that, nobody would want to come. Instead, I said, let's plan the menu for next week. When's there a game? When's there this going on? Who's going to be home? What do we have to have? And then we just as a family made a menu, and it was on the refrigerator. So there was no, what are we having for dinner? It was on the refrigerator, and different people could cook different days, and the labor got divided up, and everybody pitched in, and yeah. So we did menu planning, and the budget was better. We saved money on food. Eating out is expensive. It's too high in sugar and fat and salt. And all those things lead to health problems.
I love this. And I think the other positive, just talking about, because I'm very interested in psychology, like once you have people taking ownership in a plan like this, they are way more likely to follow through and really care about the work that goes into it and the results that might come out of it. And continuing to think of this younger population, because for one, I take these episodes and use them as teaching materials for those that I work with. And I know that that's our goal for other coaches and mentors to be able to do the same. We have parents who listen. So the other targeted question for this population, I think, is, you've presented an incredible case here for why we need to care about this from a health perspective. But I'm hearing the athletes right now. I'm hearing their thoughts. And the thoughts are, what's this going to do for my bench press and my 40-yard dash and getting the Division I offers? So, and we know, of course, in the context of health and research, health and performance are so intertwined. But how would you pitch this? What exactly is it going to do for my speed and strength? Because I care about these things as well, and I'd love to.
I think you got to. Yeah, I agree. I think you got to think of your body as a whole unit. I think that's the problem. If we use a Western clinical model where we're like, my muscle is my muscle and it doesn't have anything to do with anything else, that's just not how it works. So I think that you want to have like the best car. And so you would not only have a car that looked great, you would have great tires on it. You would have a great motor. Well, all those things need separate exercises, but they also need different nutrition. Now, luckily, protein does tend to come with B vitamins because it has its own mitochondria in it. But it's missing some essential vitamins and minerals that are also in the mitochondria, which is the motor. And the muscle, your heart has the most mitochondria or motors of any one tissue. So you want good cardiovascular health, you've really got to have the mitochondria working great. You want to have good performance for lifting. Now you got to have really good skeletal muscle health. So now I'm going to have that great protein. So every athlete understands the necessity of protein. They never don't get that question right. Everybody gets that.
Chicken and broccoli.
Exactly. And broccoli. Why though? Why is chicken and broccoli? Well, because broccoli has the right calcium magnesium ratio, and it's one of the highest protein vegetables that are out there. And so 80% of everybody is magnesium deficient, but you can't even make energy without magnesium. And so anything, what has magnesium? Chocolate, nuts, and greens. Anything that's green has chlorophyll that has magnesium. And that's why every athlete knows I've got to have those green vegetables, even if they don't know it's because of the magnesium. Otherwise, they're going to be like, I cannot want to buy that piece of chocolate, or I'm going to eat 3/4 of a cup of nuts because I just need all that magnesium. It's really interesting. 80% of Americans are magnesium deficient. And then I can't relax my blood vessel, which every athlete knows, oh, I want to do things like arginine so I have great blood flow, but you can't even relax the muscle without the magnesium. Turns on this crazy enzyme called myosin light chain phosphatase and kinase. That needs calcium to contract so that you can pump the blood, squeeze it, pump it, squeeze it, pump it, but I have to relax it so it can fill again. And that takes magnesium. So everything is a yin-yang balance. We don't want to have too much calcium and not enough magnesium, or too much magnesium and not enough calcium. We don't want to have no sodium, but we want to have enough potassium, because they're always working together. That's how your body works. So we can't have one and not the other, because that's like playing ping pong where you're just hitting a ball into the ether. Like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You got to have two to play the game.
And you're saying that magnesium is,
Magnesium and calcium are
I
the two
see.
people playing that game. Maybe the pitcher and the catcher. That would be a good analogy as well. You got to have both. So you always want to have a certain ratio of calcium to magnesium. They know the literature, 2 to 1 or 1 to 1, but not like I have tons of calcium and no magnesium. So you really don't want to have more than twice as much calcium as magnesium. That's why the RDA is the way it is. Knows that. They did a great study on sodium and potassium. It's not that this high salt diet is the problem. It's that if I eat a lot of processed foods, I have plenty of sodium but no potassium. And potassium is what's called an intracellular ion. It pulls the water in, and now I'm a grape and not a raisin. Every athlete knows they want to be a grape. They want to have that nice hydration, but you can't hold that water in your muscle without potassium. Sodium pulls it out, sugar pulls it out, amino acids pull it in. And so that's why we're having them together. Everyone knows post-workout I got to have my protein with my carbs. That's because
Right.
you got to open the door. The door is opened only by insulin, and insulin is only made in response to sugar. You can eat all the amino acids you want, but no sugar, no door open. Doesn't really work. Amino acids will just go
Gotta have
into.
the delivery system. That makes sense. And you've made a lot of great points here, but I think we just struck gold in particular with your note about the vasculature, the effects on the blood vessels. Because, as I think you noted there, so many athletes, particularly young athletes, the gym bros, and I'm one of these people to an extent. We love our pre-workout supplements, which I'm sure
Yeah.
you probably have some thoughts on that. But people take these because they're like, I want to get a pump for the gym. Gotta have the pump. And it sounds like from what you're describing is that's like counterproductive if you're not balancing it out with the things you need for the other side, which is to achieve appropriate relaxation so that, the pump can occur as you want it to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it doesn't have to happen all at once. I understand that. So, like, we're going to fill the car and then drive the car, or we're going to throw the ball before we catch it. I'm not saying they have to be done at exactly the same time. The purpose of most pre-workout drinks that try to hydrate you is they're trying to get that water into the system so that you are hydrated ahead of time. But most pre-workout drinks have things like taurine in them, which is an antioxidant for the heart and the white blood cells, and that's why they put that in. Maybe they have carnitine in them because otherwise, fat is too fat to walk into your muscle, into your mitochondria. It needs its carnitine to get in. And some people can't make it, so maybe it has that in there. Or maybe it has like a little bit of B vitamins, but I think sometimes they put the wrong B vitamins in there. Not
Interesting.
sometimes, a lot of times.
So on that note, then, what are the right B vitamins? I mean, I'm sure
So
it's
the one
context
B vitamin
dependent.
that I detest is cyanocobalamin. So B12, which
Interesting. I know I've
is
seen that on my labels. some of the
Yes.
things that I've
So,
taken before.
everybody sees the word cyano, and there's a color, right? That's like a cyano kind of color, right? So they think it's that. But really, it's cyanide. That's actually what it is. It's a cyanide molecule,
Wow.
your B12. So your liver's got to take it off. And then what's it going to do with it? Well, it poisons you, actually. And so it's not so great for you. And the Mayo Clinic, you can type in cyanocobalamin side effects, it'll come up. Whole list, Mayo Clinic. It's not like a nutritionist saying this. This is the Mayo Clinic telling you that cyanocobalamin has side effects. So the way that cobalamin existed in nature is that bacteria working on animal products made a thing called methylcobalamin. So that meant that you ate animal products. And this is why a lot of people, when they eat more animal products, naturally they are like, I think I feel better, and so I have to get, for my vegans, Tom Brady being a great example, right? He's a great athlete, he's vegan, but, he knows he's got to have methylcobalamin. He's not going to be taking cyanocobalamin.
It's interesting because you do hear this when people switch to the animal foods diet that they have this positive experience. But it sounds like you're saying this is truly an indirect effect that could perhaps be achieved through other means as long as you get your vitamin balance in check. Would you say
Yeah,
that's
and I think that there's a couple of things. It's just way easier to meet your protein requirements when you eat animal protein. It's just
I
easier. If you're a vegan or vegetarian, it's really hard. Because remember we said you want protein the size of your hand and the thickness of your palm. That's animal protein. If
I
I
see.
have to do vegetarian protein, I gotta do 2 hands worth. That's a lot of food. That's a lot of stuff that I have to have. And now I gotta match my proteins. I gotta do my
Hmm.
total proteins and blah blah like that, right? It makes it harder. It's just easier. Animal proteins are just more natural. They're more easy. So I
I
eat a
see.
vegan meal every day, but I know the protein content of it because I made it. But I eat 1 to 2 animal meals a day because it's just easier for me to have a piece of chicken the size of my hand, or a piece of turkey, or lamb, or some kind of animal product. That's just much easier to get than if I had to do twice that much in a plant-based
And
protein.
that makes total sense. All about, what your body can actually use because of course that's the purpose of it is we're speaking for the gym bros again, we're taking it because we want to synthesize new muscle tissue in response to our training inputs. So that
Yeah,
that
that's
makes
totally it.
makes a lot of sense. I want to zoom out for the audience because I think there's been a lot here, a lot of valuable information, and I would say probably a lot of things. There's listeners right now saying, you know what, she's right. It's time to change. I'm ready to seize this opportunity and run with it and see what effects I can get in a kind of rapid fire manner to these people. What can they do as of today? Like if they're looking to plan out in a simple way, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, what are you telling them? And I know that's tough. It's a tough ask
No,
to
that's not
consolidate all
actually
of that. But
sabotage.
what does that look like?
So am I able to talk about what I made?
Of course,
Oh
absolutely.
yeah, so I just got how hard it is, right? So I created a product called Potential Power Nutrition, and I did 24 grams of organic pea protein with either cocoa or vanilla, but organic. And then I put fiber in there, and some sugar, so that we open the door, so all that protein gets into the muscle. And then we want those anti-inflammatories, so I put turmeric and ginger and cinnamon in there, and then good fats. We didn't talk about the importance of good fats. So fats are really, really important. They really help your system work better because you just get paid $131 when you burn fat and only $38 when you burn sugar in your, well, 36 actually in your muscles. So you just do better, and you really have to have good fats. And I put in a really good functional fat in there so that you can have that. But that's what breakfast is, the most skipped meal of the day. Really hard to get enough protein. Like a bagel is just not doing it for you. And you'd have to eat 4 eggs to have as much protein as in the shake. You'd have to have an
I
apple to
see.
have as much fiber as in the shake. And that would be more expensive. And then the other meals, I would say, plan it out. Even if you're gonna eat, say you're saying like, well, I'm gonna get some deli meat, or just get the no salt or very low salt one. And then have some potassium with it. Have a banana, have potatoes, have celery. You're gonna have to just get your potassium up. Bananas, orange. Get that potassium up if you're going to eat some sodium. If you're not having enough fiber, have some celery. That's my main thing. I tell everybody, just eat more celery. It has a lot of fiber in it.
I love it. Super actionable because we can all go to the store right now after listening to this and pick up these items. And the product,
Then I'll do one more thing. Since the
gotcha.
non-organic wheat is the problem, start eating potatoes. Potatoes are great.
More versatile too. You can do a lot more with potatoes,
So
as my
much.
case.
Potatoes are fabulous, and they have such great minerals and vitamin C in them, especially the yellow ones. So like potatoes got vilified for no good reason. You need those carbs. You got to carb load if you're going to do any kind of aerobic burst stuff. Like if you're really going to go of all out piece, high heart rate stuff, you're going to be in zone 4. You got to have carbo loaded the night before.
Of course. Yeah, and I think for people who are like people understand this, it's kind of a little bit more mainstream you have to do that, but the path to doing so is probably far from optimal in most cases. So that presents a way to do this in a way more effective manner.
Go
With
to,
that,
yeah, get 3 pounds. This is what I do. I buy 3 pounds of sweet potatoes, take them all
oh,
425
love
for
the sweet
50
potatoes.
minutes. 425, 50 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on how big they are. Stick them in the fridge, microwave one every single day. Boom, done. Super easy.
Recipe for success. I love it. Well, Dr. Mary, thank you so much. I really appreciate as I say, the ingredient you've contributed here to our capsule of knowledge. I know for a fact this will help very many people. Just from my own experience out there doing my best to teach and lead, particularly the younger population, it seems that real quality info on this subject is few and far between. So I'm excited to get this out there to those who are trying to make positive change. And, perhaps we can have another conversation in the future to unpack this a little bit further.
That would be great. And when we're done, we can chat a bit about that.
Amazing. If you enjoyed this ingredient of the capsule, we invite you to view our full formula at capslab.org. That is capslab.org. We appreciate your investment in building a healthier world.